Stephen, do
Andrew,
you fancy spending a quiet night inside number 9?
most definitely.
It's the wrap up of inside number 9 so far. So we've got to the end of what has been filmed, as you know, as we are sitting
We've
here.
run out of content to talk about.
That's what I'm saying. How's that feel?
Weird.
It's
We've
kind of
caught up with it.
It's mental. Like, I remember when we started recording in May. We started with Sardines, obviously, start of Series 1. The end of Series 5 felt like a very long time away.
It felt like something that had been on the television for a long time, and that the end of it was a long way away.
Yeah. And untouchable in many ways because, I don't know how you felt, but the idea of getting through that many episodes in detail felt like a very overwhelming prospect.
Knowing me and knowing you.
Aha.
I didn't think that we would manage to be this consistent.
No.
In any way whatsoever.
Was that more emphasis on knowing me, as in knowing you from your perspective, me?
No. Both equally.
How sketchy we both are.
Yeah.
And how busy we are and how, committed we are to really important things.
But I think that, and I think that has actually played quite a big role, is that this hasn't been something that's been really important. At least it's, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? But you're going to have to edit that out. Edit that out. Please edit that out. Because that's come across wrong. You know what I mean, though. It's fairly trivial in the grand scheme of things, and it's just been something fun to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's meant that, it hasn't carried too much weight, and that's made it easier to carry on, I guess.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think for me, just the fact that it's like become a habit of us getting together and just chatting and keeping sane during the year that has been crazy and lockdown and all that sort of stuff. It's just given us a reason to talk.
I was going to say to be.
It's given us a reason to be. Yeah, absolutely. It's been great. It's been great. And so, I don't want to make this too much about like the entire thing, because obviously we did that a little bit with the
special day,
with the special day special. And so, obviously now you know that we're recording this after that. We're recording this after every episode that has been recorded so far has been recorded. Not that that makes any sense if you're listening beyond this episode, because we haven't recorded this after the episode.
For a man who doesn't like to date his episodes by mentioning things like Christmas, you're doing a really good job of that right now.
Oh, sometimes I get lost. Yeah, I mean, we've had some really good like feedback and emails and stuff. Certainly, especially since just before Christmas.
I think people...
I don't want to date this episode. I can't believe we've done that again.
It's just relentless.
This is so bad.
Just in the last couple of weeks, we've had loads. When we were going back through, there was just like this barrage that appeared within a couple of weeks of each other.
It's almost like for some reason people had like time on their hands and a bit of a break, and don't know what would have caused that. Like anything could have caused that.
Mystery celebration.
Yeah, so I don't know how you want to kind of approach this. Maybe sort of like we were talking a little bit before, maybe we just go through episode by episode, talk about the feedback we've had, little extra tidbits that we've received. The referees are a winner, a wanker, a wander, a whatever, came after the special event
You're saying it as though we put on a special event. It did come after our special event, the Halloween one.
Oh, it did, yeah. But then there was another special event, which was the book launch, the Scripts Series 1 to 3 script book launch with Reese and Steve and Robin Ince, which was really a lovely and very overwhelming
It was, yeah.
event.
So much going on in that chat.
Yeah, there's a lot of chat going on.
And we both now own those books.
We do. Yeah. I haven't quite had time to delve into mine yet. I know you've had some chills.
Christine gave me goosebumps reading it. Just reading it off the page was just ridiculous. I don't know how they managed that, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
It was just ridiculous how you can, even just in text, mad.
Yeah. Which bit was it? Was a particular
It was the
thing?
end, actually.
Was it?
And I guess part of it comes from kind of replaying the scene in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Just reading the words and thinking about Sheridan Smith playing that last scene was enough to make me go, ooh, amazing.
Just about to sneeze. Interestingly, when you say you're about to sneeze, the sneeze goes.
Podcast gold. Thank you for that. I'm going to sneeze. Doesn't sneeze. Just all that was dead air.
Literally. So, like, potentially there's legs to
have a chat about those.
Have a chat about the book.
Yeah.
Or even aspects of the book over multiple.
I'm going to have to rewatch all of Series 3 to see how they differ. Books in hands.
Yeah. Well, a book in hand is
worth
two in the. I don't know, on a Bush TV. Other TV manufacturers are available. Do Bush even make TVs?
I don't think they do. You were so worried about dating it around events of the year that you didn't think about.
About 1998 was the last time Bush made a TV. Right, so let's really move on.
Oh no, Bush are still making TVs. You'll be pleased to know.
Oh, cheers, Simon. The referee is a
wanker.
Okay,
I'm just going with that.
To be fair, there was somewhere I heard. I think it was maybe on their podcast that we don't listen to, where Reese and Steve were talking about it, referring to it as the referee's a wanker.
That's the thing, is whether the stars are there from a publishing in TV magazines point of view or something else.
Well, exactly. I like to think it's something else. So Desiree, thank you so much for your emails. Email
and Twitter.
And Twitter, yes. Yes, I believe you are from the US of A. And obviously football is quite different over there. So we're talking about soccer. In the referee's a worker. Very hard worker. Yeah, it's nice that we helped Desiree understand football a little more from a British perspective. Because I mean, and it was like we talked about it in the episode, didn't we? Like the quite niche references and very specific and very knowing references to the culture of football and how they got that right.
I think from what I've read afterwards, it sounds like that was Steve's doing. Reese said that he basically just did things phonetically.
Yeah. Isla got in touch, didn't she, on Twitter to...
Oh, she said, it was from the Whole Daily Gazette or something.
Yeah. Which, again, is a beautifully niche and specific reference.
To something that then pops up later in the series
Well,
in the
yeah.
podcast.
Yeah. Lauren also got in touch about that episode, and the fact that she hates football. She is a football hater. It was funny, even for me, who didn't get the little in-jokes, still felt engaged. And thanks to you guys for illuminating me. Yeah, Reese, not a football... so she talks about that as well. Reese is not a football fan himself. But his ignorance probably helped the writing, forcing Steve to throw light on the intricacies of the beautiful game to help Reese and the viewer. That actually is a really good point.
I think if you're writing from a place where one of you does really enjoy it and someone doesn't, then you're more likely to capture.
You're going to sort of help them, and I think that comes from both sides as well. So there's the one who knows the game, knows the references, is going to try and help the other person sort of understand those things, and then the one who doesn't is going to help to show the absurdities of the things that are absurd about what you're trying to get me to understand. And so there's kind of a beautiful balance there, which is, I think, probably captured perfectly throughout this episode. Even just... I mean, since watching this again, since recording our episode, I've been paying special attention to linesmen when watching football. And especially with Ralph Little's character in mind. Just that
trying
kind
to
of
be the centre of attention.
The egocentric, how they're holding the flag like a peacock, or
if they were holding a peacock trying to run the line, I imagine it'd be very difficult.
Well, yeah. Or it's half-time and the linesman has gone and grabbed the ball and is standing
self-importantly.
There's such good images in this episode.
That's the thing with that whole description there of Ralph Little. I can imagine Ralph Little doing exactly that. I can picture, I can see in my mind the camera panning round and him stood there, looking around.
And Lauren's point, which I really picked up on, so she's talking about the kiss, and that moment that we picked up, which the "Can I kiss you?" which is sorry, what? Where's that come from? What's going on here? And then she says Martin's kiss annoyed me. It looked uncomfortable and like he was holding back. And then the question of is it poor acting, or did he know that he was eventually going to betray his boyfriend? And I mean, there's an element of is any of it real, or is this all a part of the ruse?
That's the thing, though, and I think we spoke a lot about this episode and how it plays out, and whether really what happens is actually a twist at the end of it, because it just is it just a fairly linear playing out of a plan? Is there? I don't. I found that a bit odd, because if the kiss is meant to come across as real, then it does kind of create a twist element at the end. But if you read that as that was very uncomfortable, that looks like there's something up here.
Yeah,
it just makes it seem a little bit more linear and not really very twisty.
Yeah, I think we've rinsed that one numb.
That's not a phrase that anyone has ever used.
It's not, but I was just trying it out, just seeing if it fitted.
It didn't.
I'm going to rinse you numb. That's really threatening. That's horrible. That's a horrible phrase. Why. That's a horrible phrase.
Say that again.
Oh, man. I rinsed myself numb last night.
That sounds very different.
It does have a lot of usage. Right. Death Be Not Proud.
Yeah. Crossover.
the crossover.
both in terms of Reese and Steve's writing and us with the real world and having Lauren back on.
It was great to have Lauren back on at this stage.
I keep hearing back on as Bacon, and I don't know
Really?
why.
Yeah, no, this was a great crossover between Inside Number 9 and Psychoville. And obviously, you know, we talked about it in the episode that neither of us, when we first saw this episode, neither of us had seen Psychoville. So we didn't know David Sauerbatz or Maureen. But we still enjoyed it. And it was still a standalone good episode of
Here we
Inside
have
Number 9.
2 episodes to start the series that work for both people who are existing fans of the thing that the episode is about and people who aren't.
Quite.
That's really probably a theme of this series.
Yeah.
Should we see if we can shoehorn that into every other episode?
Yeah, and it was really good to have Lauren on. Originally we'd invited her on
on the basis that we had no idea.
We had neither of us had watched Psychoville, and neither of us had intentions of watching it in the time that we had before we needed to record this episode.
But then luckily you got an instruction to self-isolate.
I had to self-isolate, yeah, which was a week of basically skipping and watching Psychoville for me. And then you felt left out, so you watched some.
Yeah, you said, watch this. It's good.
It's good. And keep watching it because you will really love the characters over time.
Which is true.
And so in the end, it became a nice conversation with Lauren about characters we all kind of knew a bit.
I think that also it still gave a different perspective speaking to someone who watched it first time round with the knowledge who these people
definitely.
were.
Yeah.
Because I think it probably does give you a very different impression of the episode.
Yeah.
Oh, and that was also our dance video that went up on Twitter.
Oh, it was indeed, yeah. And then Love's Great Adventure, which, well, as we said at the time, it's just so straight up a really nice story about a great family with troubles. And the twist is, really, there is no twist.
There isn't a twist at all. Something happens that's revealed to us later. I think that maybe this is one for people who aren't fans of soap operas yet can still appreciate this episode.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to make this theme work. I think it was strange doing it at the time of year we did, heading into Advent and Christmas when this was broadcast back in February. Like I don't know how we ended up making that happen, but it was perfect timing.
No, I loved Lauren's email about this one. Chekhov's Great Adventure was the subject title, or should that be Chekhov's Big Shop? Who else talks about this one? Mark Wade on Twitter. What does he say?
Mark Wade said he had actually just watched it when we put the episode out. He said it was superb kitchen sink drama, and he enjoyed it more than he enjoys Grandma's Knickers.
Yeah. Misdirection.
I can't spend more time talking about misdirection.
we don't have to talk about the title. I think we've rinsed it.
Or Willy Wonder until it's numb.
Oh dear.
Matthew Thompson.
A lovely email from Matthew Thompson.
I feel like we've spoken about the Prestige on various occasions. I don't know why, but I do have memories of us talking about the Prestige. Oh, and I remember it was the sci-fi element. Yeah, Seance Time and the disappointment of things turning out to be the supernatural. But this was not like that when we were drawing the parallels with the Prestige, because this was obviously about magic. But more specifically about tricks being stolen.
Yeah. And it wasn't. Yeah, exactly. I think this was probably better reference to the Prestige in terms of it being the showman versus the kind of genuine artist, the person, the craftsman, the person that really cares about what they're doing.
And that's that's kind of what Matthew alluded to in his email. He sort of drew quite specific parallels with the actual characters in the Prestige.
Yeah. Because Matthew, he says Neville's a lot like Hugh Jackman's character. Both characters who prefer the pageantry and spectacular magic, not the craft itself. Neither of them actually create their own tricks. They consider themselves to have more bravado than other magicians, and it ultimately becomes their downfall. Yeah,
completely. And
exactly.
I think it was interesting that Matthew pointed out, I hadn't really considered the fact there are only 3 other people in the episode and 2 of them end up dead.
Yeah.
The supporting cast does not fare well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I had a message from Joe about about misdirection as well, which was to do with where Neville's wife went, and it being Gabriel, almost just like a meeting that Gabriel had called with her, and it being that stark and that sinister.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That he's called that meeting in order to just kill her, and that's it. Like, he's lured her away, and this is all part of the trick. And I don't like to call it a trick because I don't think it is a trick. I think it is just, as you said in the episode, it's like this big con, this big, yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it?
It's like a con job. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's overlapping. I guess it's drawing parallels between magic and conning someone.
Yeah.
And I guess there's a bit of a link there to the bill.
Yeah.
In that all being an elaborate setup.
That's a really good point, yeah.
And essentially a trick, an illusion being played on someone that's right in front of them. I guess Neville isn't actually trying to hide something as a magic trick, is he? Really? I mean, the magic trick that he does plays a part in his overall con and setup. But it's not...
Yeah, he's not trying. Yeah,
This is one big magic trick that actually turns out to be something.
No, he's just trying to get his own back.
Yeah, exactly, and he doesn't do that in some grand way. I just thought of Dave Benson Phillips.
I was thinking of Dave Benson Phillips. There's no Gunge. If only they had Gunge, this would have turned out a lot less like.
Here we've got Neville and Neville. Gabriel, who would you like to put in the tank?
I'd like to put Neville, the murder of my grandfather, Neville.
Neville then has to do some stupid challenges, only to get gunged at the end.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would have preferred that. Thinking out loud. Yeah. This one, I think, had more engagement for us than most of our episodes. People seem to enjoy this more than we did. I mean, someone described our review as generous. I'm not sure whether that was what that was sort of in reference to.
Yeah, I couldn't work out what that meant.
It's is it generous in that we spoke sort of in defense of it a little bit, and it didn't deserve it? Because I think we were quite critical of it up front, but then kind of as we went on talking about it, as we sometimes do, sort of found more to like about it.
I do think it's a really brilliant episode. And there are things we didn't pick up, which Simon and Joe both picked up, like the live Angel live stream when live turns to evil at the moment that Galen takes hold of the situation, which is a nice transition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially given the anagrams and like
that we're told about at the end.
That theme. But yeah, I mean, still, I'm not convinced by that whole.
I mean, Lewis messaged on Twitter and asked where we'd heard about it potentially not being written by them, or not something they considered doing, the massive exposition dump at the end. And it was something that, because he said that it was something he'd read but hadn't heard it confirmed. And I think I'd done the same thing, because we hadn't listened to any of the podcasts around it. I'd kind of just taken someone else's interpretation of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out, no. Having listened, I then went and listened to that. That was more to do with the editors having something planned with the names on the board.
Okay.
It wasn't really in reference to the ending, I don't think. So I couldn't find anything that kind of confirmed that there was someone else having a part in that.
Mm-hmm.
But it felt out of character.
Yeah, and I think that's what. Yeah, and Lauren talks about that as well, where it just doesn't feel like a Stephen Reese thing. Like it feels like it's not quite.
Is that just incredibly meta?
And that's what it might be. Like, and given the context of the episode, and I know Lorraine picked up on that as well, where it might just be this kind of extreme meta sense of they've lost control of everything.
Yeah.
To the point where they've lost their own voice in the episode itself.
I saw, I can't find it right now, but it was in one of the Reddit threads where someone had created like a voiceover for Love's Great Adventure that does exactly the same thing.
Oh, really?
Basically said, well, you see, what's just happened here is that the car that was mentioned earlier on in the episodes and the car repairs, that was her running over the drug dealer. And it just felt out of character. You wouldn't get that in any other episode at all. You see, what's just happened here is...
So was that bringing together Thinking Out Loud and Love's Great Adventure?
Yeah. If Love's Great Adventure ended like Thinking Out Loud.
But that's what I mean. Like, there's no, like, you don't get an explanation in any other episode in that sort of way. And I think what gets me with that is that it's not so ambiguous that you wouldn't get there with a bit of thought.
Although, to be fair, the one anagram that they left out was the live evil one, and we didn't spot it. So maybe we did.
And we are idiots. Yeah. No, maybe we are the problem. Maybe this is aimed for us. Yeah. Cheers, guys.
We are the lowest common denominator.
We really appreciate that. Yeah.
Oh, I think you are entirely vindicated in your hate of Bill Ryland. Most of the people who've written
we got
to
a
us,
lot of similar hate mail.
In fact, I feel of any point over the last 5 series that we've spoken about, this is the one that seems to have really struck a chord with the people listening to us more than any other thing we've said.
Yeah.
Apart from maybe you with some beer.
And then the stakeout.
Out.
Yeah, Simon joined us for that, which was very appreciated.
That was fun. It was nice to have someone with a academic understanding of these things added on top.
Yes, indeed. And yeah, it's just good to talk about an episode in a slightly different way, and to be educated on a few things, and to not feel like we needed to. Well, I didn't feel like I needed to research too much because I wanted to learn from Simon.
Did it feel like a week off for you?
Yeah, well, yeah. I could sleep during the day.
We've been accused of missing the obvious reference.
Yeah, which obviously Yeah. So Desiree pointed out the fact stakeout in the title, obviously a reference to vampires and the fact that Thompson sleeps above a butcher's where there's a lot of steak, I assume.
Desiree didn't say that. Like, we're assuming from what she said that
Yeah.
that's what she was making reference to.
Meat references.
Niche meat references.
Yeah, I mean, so Imogen sent us a nice email, and it was really good to hear from Imogen.
We've had some really nice emails just from people in general.
There's just been some lovely emails, and that is what makes it feel really worth it and lovely.
When we started this, for some reason it seems to be us heading towards the end of this. That's kind of attracted some emails from people saying they really don't want us to finish or get to the end of it.
I'm sure you do now.
You do now after this mess. But it's been a weird year that I didn't think we'd be ending this year reading emails like this, with people telling us that we've improved their year, and that while this has been a tough year, that we've had a genuinely positive impact on the last year.
Yeah,
I mean, the bar was pretty low. If I was going to choose a year to try and brighten up for people, I'd have probably started this one.
It's the ideal year to go for. Exactly. People's expectations are rock bottom. And it's been good to hear from people in other places other than the UK, because I think Inside Number 9 is particularly, like a lot of the stuff that Reese and Steve do is very British. It's very UK centered. In terms of the references that they put into things, and it's been really great hearing from people outside of our country as well, like Dylan Thies, who got in touch to say love the show and love the podcast as much, which is amazing. And he said he's an American boy coming late to the party. Looking for podcasts on Inside Number 9 for ages, and was depressed to find out nobody was talking about this great show.
You should have just made one. That's what we did.
Now that's all changed, and now I can't wait to rewatch every episode again before listening to your podcast. You guys make my day every time I see a new episode in my feed. Thank you. I mean, like, that's amazing. I mean, if I was going to like write a sentence or write a paragraph of what we're trying to do, it would be that.
Dylan's just done that. Dylan, can we borrow your copy?
And that is exactly why I wanted a podcast, and why I was like, right, we need to record a podcast in order to lay down the challenge for other people to do a better podcast. And having done 30 odd episodes of it, I feel like, actually, no, I feel quite protective over this podcast now.
No, don't even think about starting.
Don't try to start a podcast. Just add to ours. All right. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Happy New Year. I mean, happy day.
Happy New Day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.